Ms. Mellerson, you've entered the court with a wounded heart because there are two different men who may have fathered your 11-month-old daughter, Chelsea. Now, Mr. Williams, you claim the plaintiff initially told you that you were not the father, yet now she claims you are.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Merritt, you say it's your deepest hope today that the test proves you are Chelsea's biological father.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Ms. Mellerson, you're in a relationship with Mr. Merritt, and you then begin to cheat on Mr. Merritt with Mr. Williams.
Right.
So, tell me a little bit about how you all met.
I had met Mr. Williams in 2012, and from there, it just began with our relationship.
Your Honor, it was never a relationship.
It was a sexual relationship, first
we had
of all.
sex twice, and we
Your
never...
Honor, he is lying because, number one, Your Honor, this man right
Your Honor,
here,
for
I
it
don't
to
know
be a
what you're
relationship,
trying to cover up for your
it to be a
girlfriend over
relationship,
there.
if we was in a relationship, ask her how many times have we ever left my house.
It doesn't matter how many times we left the house.
We only had sex twice, and both times she came to the house, and we never...
Bottom line is you do admit that you had sex with her.
Yes.
It was a sexual relationship.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's pretty much all it takes to create a baby.
Yes, ma'am.
My child favors Mr. Merritt. She do. So at that moment, I had thought that Chelsea was his child.
You thought that Chelsea was Mr. Merritt's
child, right? And that's when I had texted him.
See, that's the thing. I never knew nothing about him. They was in a relationship. I never knew that.
All right,
but
so
now
that we're talking about
really
your relationship with Mr. Merritt and how you felt like Chelsea resembled him, Mr. Merritt, you were her boyfriend at the time.
Yes, ma'am.
When she found out she was pregnant, did she tell you?
Probably like 5-6 months later, then, just popped up at my door and said, I'm pregnant, so you might be the father.
So 5 or 6 months pregnant, she showed up at the door?
Yeah, ma'am.
She hadn't called you to tell you she was pregnant all that time?
No, ma'am. She said
she
erased my number or whatever, so.
Here we go with this phone again.
No, I did not have his number at the time.
But wasn't he your boyfriend?
Right, but we had broke up in September 2012. During the month that I had conceived, we stopped talking. That was it for us. We was done. I lost my license in like October-ish. I got my license back in April of 2012. And that's when I came to him and told him.
So as soon as you got your transportation,
as soon as I got my transportation back on track, I told him there's a possibility. And that's why I'm saying these are grown men acting like there is no possibility to be a father to my child. If you slept with me unprotectedly, guess what? There is a possibility of you being my child's father.
Okay.
So get it right.
In the case of Mellerson v. Williams Merritt pertaining to whether Mr. Williams is the biological father of 11-month-old Chelsea Mellerson, it has been determined by this court that Mr. Williams, you are not the father. In the case of Mellerson v. Williams Merritt pertaining to whether Mr. Merritt is the biological father, it has been determined by this court, Mr. Merritt, you are not the father.
Well, I know who it is.
Ms. Mellerson, you could have saved us
100%. I'm saying I'm not coming up here trying to, sit here and say,
So you're doing you're saying, basically what you're saying,
I did not
process
know.
of elimination, you really didn't know, and now that these two are ruled out.
I know 100%.
You know.
I know 100%.
You know what? That's the most important thing. Now what you do with that truth is gonna really be the testimony of who you are. You're in court today hoping to right your wrongs. When your 2-year-old son, Javion, was born, he had 4 possible fathers, including the defendant. You hope today's result help you find your son's father and heal your broken heart. And Mr. Smith, you argue that Ms. Davis actually told you you were not her son's father. And you say you just had a brief sexual relationship and you don't want to take care of a child that isn't yours.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Davis, we said that there were 4 potential fathers.
Yes, Your Honor.
I need you to walk me through that.
There are 4 potential fathers, and each of the individual men I actually met on a chat line within days upon each other. I made a calendar.
Okay. Jerome, let me have that evidence, please. Thank you. So this calendar shows that you were intimate with potential father number 1 on the 12th of November.
That would be my ex-boyfriend.
So this is a guy you'd been in a relationship with.
Yes, Your Honor.
For how long?
Maybe a steady year.
So you had sex with him on the 12th and the 13th.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then in orange, potential father number 2 we see is Mr. Smith, the defendant.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now tell me about that relationship.
I don't think I could call it a relationship. We met on the chat line. I hung out with him, and I spent a week with Mr. Smith. It's actually the time around that I conceived my son. It was mainly just
There
sexual.
looks like there was a lot there. Okay. Now, Mr. Smith, she comes to see you, and you all basically spend a solid week being intimate. Were you using protection?
No, Your Honor. It was just a fling or, a holiday fling,
It was a holiday fling.
Yes, Your Honor.
So when she went home, did you try to stay in touch with her?
No, I think she changed her number on me, Your Honor.
Oh, really?
Yes, Your Honor.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, well, explain. So you get back home and you go back to your ex?
After that week with Mr. Smith, yeah, I did go back to my ex. It wasn't satisfactory, so I didn't really feel the need to go back.
It wasn't satisfactory?
No, Your Honor.
I'm gonna leave that alone. So the man in blue, potential father number 3, who's that?
Another man which I was intimate with only once.
Where'd you meet him?
Same place I met Mr. Smith on a chat line.
So that was just a one-night fling.
Yeah, we talked for a few weeks, but we only hooked up once.
And then 2 days later, potential father number 4. Who is that?
Potential father number 4, Your Honor, he was a one-night stand. I don't remember his name.
You don't even remember his name. Do you know where he is?
No, Your Honor.
In the case of Davis v. Smith pertaining to 2-year-old Javion Davis, Mr. Smith, you are not Javion's father.
I'm so hurt, Your Honor.
You look crushed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, I can see that in your eyes. Because even though you consistently said, I doubt it, there's a disappointment that I see in your face.
Yes, Your Honor.
So we've been through potential fathers 1, 2, and 3. And you said the last guy, number 4, you used protection. Are there more? There's no easy way to ask that question, but it needs to be asked for Javion's sake. It shouldn't be no shame in your game right now. This is about the truth. Are there more?
No, Your Honor.
So without a shadow of a doubt, knowing what we know now, potential father number 4 would have to be Javion's father.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you don't know his name.
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Kennedy, you claim to be a nice guy who was forced to make the tough decision to drag the defendant to court to prove you did not father her 3-month-old son, Christian. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Pope, you and your mother are insulted that Mr. Kennedy denies paternity and refuse to acknowledge your child. You say he laid down with you and now he has to step up and pay. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Kennedy, why do you believe that Ms. Pope claims you're the father of her 3-month-old baby?
I believe she's just looking for someone to pin it on or pick up the slack from her previous, encounter.
I found out that I was pregnant at 6 weeks. I had a cutie one morning and threw it up at work. I put the 2 and 2 together. It wasn't rocket science, and I knew that I was pregnant. And after that point, he really didn't have much to say over the fact that I was.
And Mr. Kennedy, do you remember when she told you she was pregnant?
She told me around May or June or July. At that point, she had said there were 2 other gentlemen involved, and I had asked her, could it potentially be mine? And she said, no, you're in the clear. So at that point, I
never said he was in the clear.
But wait, you also didn't say there were 2 other men involved, Ms. Pope, when you just testified. You can't leave things out as important as that. We're in paternity court. Those facts matter. I want to understand, when you told him that, did you tell him, I'm pregnant, but don't worry because there's 2 other men?
No, Your Honor, I never told him not to worry. This is something that he needs to worry about. Obviously, he already has a son.
If you count from May 6th to January 26th or 28th, whenever the child was born, that's 40+ weeks.
So the bottom line is you did the
children.
math and subtracted yourself out the equation.
That's exactly what he did.
Okay, she didn't tell you anything about the pregnancy, anything. You didn't hear from her until after the baby was born.
Yes,
I
Your
had
Honor.
messaged him the night
And you
that I
get
went into
some
labor.
messages.
Yes, Your Honor.
Let me read through these messages. I've been trying to get a hold of you. I wanted to call you and talk. And you reply, about. And she replies, would you like to guess? And then you reply, no. And then Ms. Pope says, okay, well, I'm not sure how to say this, so I'll just show you. And you send a picture of the baby.
Yes, it looks just like him.
So when you saw this message, Mr. Kennedy, what did you think?
I asked her straight, point blank, are you sure it's mine? Because the last information I was given, there were 2 other gentlemen involved. So I wasn't exactly sure if it truly was mine or not. I made a promise to my children, any children that I had, I'm gonna be the father I never had. So
If that's
this
your
child-
promise, where is it at then?
You didn't tell me until after the child was born.
Showing up
How am I
one
supposed to
time
know
is
it's
not
my
enough.
child unless you don't tell me right away? You told me there were 2 gentlemen involved.
You were never involving yourself to begin with.
I didn't think I had to. You told me there were 2 other men involved.
Were there 2 other men involved, Ms. Pope?
Yes.
I took a 6-hour trip out of my day to go up and actually see the child with my own eyes just to make sure she was being truthful. I didn't get anything until after the child was born.
So when you took the time and went up to see Christian, what happened?
I just held him for a while, trying to gather, anything, any kind of, quirks that might relate him to myself or my other, kids or anything like that. Trying to find any similarities between him and I, and that was basically it. I just went up mainly just to see the baby from my own eyes, just to make sure that this wasn't a ruse of some sort.
In the case of Kennedy versus Pope, when it comes to 3-month-old Christian Pope, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Kennedy, you are the father. You are the father.
All right.
How do you feel?
Like I got a lot of work to do.